Welcome friends, it is I, your host Scarf, and it's time for the Smite Jungle Guide. Now the purpose of this guide is to help players get better at jungling, and there's going to be a lot of information here to do that, and it's going to be talked about in a way for basic players to get better to intermediate level, and intermediate players to find some ideas they might not have thought of for advanced, and maybe there may be one or two things an advanced player hasn't thought of that'll help them get even further in their level. That is the goal here, is to just help junglers get better. But there is also more information on jungling in general, and there is counter jungling in here as well. So if you're only interested in counter jungling, there is a section for you there. It is section 7 called counter jungling and counter jungling. So you can just skip to that spot if you want. Now here are the sections for this guide. What is jungling? Jungler types, jungler god choices, jungling builds, jungling routes, etiquette, counter jungling and counter jungling, and finally my final thoughts. So let's get going. So what is jungling? Well, the jungle is the area between the lanes. Here you have gold camps and buff camps, and this is where a jungler gets their main source of income, from here and not the lanes. Now those of you who play Dota and League of Legends, there is a difference between these jungles. In Dota of League of Legends, you have different camps of varying levels that give you XP and gold reflective of what those levels are. In Smite, there's only 2 different types, but there's 4 of the smaller ones and 2 of the bigger ones. The 4 smaller ones have 2 small Furies and 1 big Fury, and then the 2 bigger ones are in the middle with 2 big Furies on each side, and they give a lot more gold and XP than the smaller ones. Then there's the buff camps. Now, League of Legends has a red and a blue on each side, while as in Smite you have a red, 2 blues, and an orange on each side, making a total of 8 buffs on the map. Now, in League of Legends you can carry both buffs at the same time. In Smite you can only carry 1 buff at a time. If you get a red, you can pick up another red to reset the timer, but you can't pick up the other colors until that one has run out, or you died. Now, gold camps are worth more golden XP than buff camps are, and they respawn every 100 seconds, while a buff camp respawns every 240 seconds, which is 4 minutes. So in the time between getting the same buff, you can get the gold camp at least twice. There is also a gold source mini-boss, which is like Roshan and the dragon, which is the Gold Fury. She can be handled one-on-one or in a group, usually a group early in the game, late game you can do one-on-one. Then there's the Fire Giant, who is like the Baron in League of Legends, who is pretty hard to fight one-on-one. It usually takes a group to beat him, and it gives your team a strong buff that's really nice for the game. Another difference between Smite and the others is that you have a specific item for the jungle, and that's the Bumba's Mask, and we'll go deeper into that in the items section. Jungling types. Now this jungle in Smite creates 3 different types of junglers in my opinion. And these junglers are your traditional full-time jungler, your half jungler, and your support jungler. Now the way the traditional full-time jungler works is, you stay in the jungle the majority of your time, you're only in the jungle, you only leave for ganks and for emergencies. That's the only thing you do. You get yourself fed a lot, either through the jungle or through killing people, and you just really run over the other team hard. You just beat the crap out of the other team, and there you go. The weakness to this type of jungler is that only you will be fed and be ahead, while the rest of your team will be behind a little bit. So if the other team figures out how to cancel you out, then your team will be in a bit of trouble. Then there's the halftime jungler, and the way this jungler works is, you're half in the jungle, half on the lanes. And what you do is, you jungle a lot, but whenever you need to, you go over to the solo lane or the mid lane and help out those lanes, either push them back or gank or hold them while your teammate goes back to base and then comes back over. That's what a halftime jungler does, is they're half in the jungle doing their jungling thing to level up and such, and then they leave the jungle to go help out those lanes. Sometimes they go to the duo lane, but that's only for emergencies. The final type is the support jungler. The way this one works is, you're in the jungle whenever you can be to get your golden XP and hunting the other jungler if there is one. You help out with ganks, you help out with pushing lanes, you help hold lanes. You're keeping an eye on the lanes while you're jungling, and you're leaving the jungle whenever you need to help out the lanes. The weakness to this one is, you will fall behind a bit as a jungler, or you'll just be in line with the other teams. You will not get ahead. But if you do it right and you get your teammates fed, then your team will be ahead as a team. You won't be ahead as a jungler, but you'll be ahead as a team. So those are the 3 different ways. You have the half jungler who's a little bit in both ways of these thoughts. Then you have the traditional jungler who's really strong for the singular, which can cause wins by demoralizing the other team. Then you have the support jungler who's more team-oriented, which can win in the long run in a late game, because the whole team is fed and not just the jungler. Suggested junglers. Now I'm going to describe each god for a moment and what makes them so great at jungling and clearing the camps. Now there are 2 lists for this. We have beginner junglers and advanced junglers. The beginner junglers are more very friendly to jungling. They do jungling very well. They can clear them quickly, and you can gank very well with these gods. And it doesn't take too much effort to do it right. You can do it well and you'll be okay. While the advanced junglers are more, if you make any mistakes, you will fall off very quickly and you'll be in trouble. So they require more knowledge of jungling to do, and you'll gain that knowledge as you play the beginner junglers. So first of the beginner junglers, we have Arachne. With her eggs and her heal and her poison, she's able to clear quickly and heal up whenever she needs to. Bakasura has the ability to eat minions, and thanks to his passive, as he kills minions, he strikes faster, and then his 3 has true damage, which allows him to clear camps even quicker. Bastet, all of her moves are bursty. Her jump, her 2 and her 3, all of them can do burst and clear a camp very fast. Hunbats' 2 and 3 can clear a camp very fast, and he has his basic attack that does nice damage if needed. Tyr's 1 and 2 combo is able to clear a camp extremely fast because of its damage, and then he can always switch to his other 1 and 2 combo if it's not done. His basic attack also hits quickly to clear camps. Vulcan is capable of taking 2 camps at the same time when he levels up a little bit. For the first levels, his towers will take the damage for him so he doesn't get hurt, and later on he can take 2 at once. Advanced junglers such as Anubis can clear camps very quickly with his 1 and 3 combo. Fenrir has the ability to lifesteal and also can do a burst when he has full runes on his 3. Freya can hit very hard with her 1 and she can do burst damage with her 2. Hebo's 1 and 3 both do burst damage and they can be done very often. Hel has 3 means of doing damage to minions and healing herself up very quickly. Hercules can heal up with his 3 and his 1 and 2 are capable of taking out camps fast by being used together. Loki has a 2 to distract minions, his backstab passive is very helpful to it. His 3 and his 1 also take out camps quickly as well. Kali's 1 buff and her 2 are able to clear camps very fast. She can also hit hard and lifesteal to keep herself going, and if she needs to, she can heal with her 3. Guan Yu is capable of clearing jungles fairly quickly using his 3, his 2, and his basic attack. Also, when he goes out to gank, his horse is very effective in causing a lot of damage and stunnage, so he can do even more damage with his 2 and 3 some more. Naya has a ring toss that does a lot of damage to minions. Their complete basic attack progression does a lot of damage to minions as well, and their 2 will allow them to do it even more often. Thor's 3 allows him to clear camps very quickly and uses 1 to finish off if he needs to. He can also do a lot of setups in the jungle. Zeus is amazingly damaging in the jungle with his damage progression and his 3. He can clear a camp extremely fast. And those are our recommended basic and advanced gods. Jungling builds. For jungling builds, you must get the Bumba's Mask. It costs 800 gold, gives you plus 30 HP, and its passive is what's important. While in the jungle, you get plus 15 MP5, and as you kill minions in the camps, they give you 10% of their match HP as a heal back. So you have a lot of sustainability in the jungle, and you're able to only go back to base when you need to, from either getting hurt too much, or from needing to buy an item. Since you used 800 gold, you have 700 left. With that 700, you can buy boots and 2 potions, you can buy 2 actives and some potions, or you can buy an active and a bunch of potions. My suggested build for beginners is Bumba's Mask, Hand of the Gods, optional active, and potions. You don't have to get an active, you can get a bunch of potions if you want. But you definitely need the Hand of the Gods and the Bumba's Mask. With those, you'll be able to clear camps quickly and move on to the next area and just go through the jungle fast and do what you need to do. Now, as you get better at jungling, you can experiment with your build though. You can go without the Bumba's Mask. It's possible with certain gods, but it takes a little more effort. But you can do it, and it's worth trying out in the future when you get better at jungling. Opening routes. Now, before we go over the routing itself, there's a couple things you need to keep in mind, and that is, at any time, you may have to break your routine, because an enemy god may be invading your area, you might have to just get the hell out of there, or a teammate might be in trouble and you can come and help, or a lane might be in trouble and you have to go and help that. There's a number of reasons why you need to break your route, and then you have to keep mindful of where you are in your route so that you can return to it later, or change up how you're going to do your route just because of whatever's happening. Your formation will break, you just got to be mindful of that, and just pay attention to what you're doing. Now, there's 4 places you should start, and it's the 2 mid-gold camps, the red and the orange. Not the blues. You do not take the blues. You have Bumba's Mask to cover your MP5. The blues are for the solo lane, mid lane, or the duo lane. Anyone that wants the blues, you get it for them, not for yourself. That Bumba's is very important because it lets you not need to take blues so your teammates can utilize it themselves. So let's talk about the mid camps. There are 2 criteria you need to fill before you decide to start the mid camps, and that is someone needs to have hogs, most likely going to be you, and someone needs to have some form of hard CC to save your life if something goes wrong. things like Poseidon's Whirlpool, or Ymir's Freezing Breath, or maybe Anubis' Mummification. It's not as good, but it can be useful. Or a deterrent like Vulcan's Tower. You need something that will keep the enemy away from you, because if you run in there and do your hog, you might get killed. And if you get killed, you'll be behind, and then you're done. If your team wants to take the mid and you do not have these two criteria, do not take the mid. If you do, you or someone else will die, and then someone on your team will be behind. If you get lucky and kill someone on the other team despite this, good for you. It ain't gonna happen every time. You are more likely to get killed in the mid or just lose your momentum at the start and have a bad start as a jungler. And you never want to have a bad start. So if you don't fill these two criteria, start at red and orange instead. Now with that said, when you start the mids, let's say you do the orange side first. You start the orange side, you take that gold camp, and then you go down and you take the orange for yourself. Then you take the blue camp for one of your teammates, and then you go down and get the gold down south. After that, you have three things you can decide to do. You can either invade the enemy jungle, you can go look for a gank, or you can go to the red side and get that jungle. Same thing is said for the right side. You take that gold camp, you go down, take the red, then you take the blue, you go down and get the gold, and then you decide between those three things what you're going to do next. Now if you start at orange camp or red camp, here's the criteria. You start at the orange, then you get blue for a teammate, get gold, and then you check the mid. See if it's in or not. After that, you make your decision. Do I invade? Do I gank? Or do I go to the red side? And the same thing is said for the red side. When you start at red, you take the blue for a teammate, go to gold, go to mid, and then you decide. Invade, mid, or the orange side. One last thing to note that's very important is whether or not you have help or not when you're clearing out the jungle at the start. Now, after you clear red or orange, if you don't have any help, don't go for blue next, go for the golds. The reason why you want to go for gold is because most likely you're still level 1, and level 1s are going to have a hard time dealing with blue camps when they don't have hog or help. So you go down to gold, clear that, you'll get to level 2 from there, and then you go for blue. After that, everything should go as according to the routes. Now, as you're taking all of these camps, you want to be mindful of where you started. So if you started at orange, and then you took blue, then you take red and then blue again, you want to remember this so that later on when orange respawns again 4 minutes later, you know that blue's going to come up soon, and then the red and the blue on the other side is going to come up soon. And the same thing goes for that side. You want to remember what you took and in what order, because they will be in that same order again 4 minutes later. So that you can build your routine, and once you got it down, and you know you've killed the last buff in your routine, you can go and do other things. Like say you go ahead and you do orange, blue, red, blue. So after you've gotten that last blue, you know for however many moments of time, you can go and gank and do whatever else before you have to do the routine again. And then of course you have to keep in mind the gold camps, especially the mid camps, because there were so much. The thing to remember is those mid camps are very important because the other jungler will be trying to take them, and so will the mid guys be trying to take them as well. If your mid god is taking them, great. If the other team's mid god is taking them, that is bad for your team, especially for the mid player. And if the jungler is taking them, that's bad for you and your entire team because that jungler is getting stronger. So you want to make sure either your mid or yourself are taking those mid camps as much as possible. The last thing to talk about is when your routing doesn't matter anymore, and that's when team fighting happens. When the team fighting phase happens, when people are not laning as much anymore, when people are everywhere trying to kill each other, this is when jungling is less important, because the jungle is no longer exclusive to you. Everyone's getting gold and XP everywhere they can to catch up or to stay ahead as everyone's killing each other. Because a fight can happen anywhere and you don't want to get caught alone in the jungle when your team's somewhere else. If a team fight's happening, you want to get your butt over it. Doesn't matter what's happening in the jungle, you need to get over there and help out. Because a 5-on-5 is a lot better than a 4-on-5. Jungling etiquette. What is very important for a jungler is etiquette. You need to make sure at the start that the team knows you want to be the jungler. You either ask for it or you just say you want to be jungle and see if they're cool with it. After that, you need to make sure someone is cool with being the solo lane. If these two criteria are not met, back off and don't do jungle. Why is this? Because if someone doesn't like you being jungler, then they're going to take the jungle from you and you're going to have a hard match. After that, if someone doesn't want to be the solo laner, then they're going to have a very hard time in the solo lane and play poorly, and it's going to be a hard match because of that. Because you're going to have to go back them up, or your teammates are going to have to go back them up, or they might feed on accident or feed on purpose, and then you're just going to lose the match. If you win the match despite these problems, good for you. It ain't going to happen that many times again. Disharmony is never good. You want to have a team in harmony, which means everyone has to agree to what they're doing. You have to have a team that agrees that you're going to be the jungler, that agrees that the solo laner is going to be who's the solo laner, mid's mid, and the duo is the duo. If the team is in harmony, you have a better chance of winning. When you are jungler, there's an unspoken deal being made between you and your teammates. The deal is they let you take the jungle in return for you helping them out whenever they need you. And then you also tell them when a buff is down whenever you clear it and you're not going to use it. With any role, this is important. When it comes to tank, carry, mage, mid lane, solo lane, jungler, duo lane, any role, it is important that your team is okay with what they're doing. You need to make sure of this, because no one likes getting pigeonholed into any role. When they do, they play worse, and they're annoyed, and they will just not be very fun to play with. Disharmony will lead to losing. It will lead to losing often. So make sure the roles are defined, everyone's going to do what they want to do, everyone's cool with what they're going to do, and have fun with it. Counter jungling and counter jungling. Now there are 4 sections to counter jungling. There is defensive warding, offensive warding, dealing with the jungler, and finally dealing with the solo lane. First off, with defensive warding is you want to put your wards here on the left lane at this spot, and this spot. These are all intersections where the jungler may be, and it's deep enough that when the jungler comes out, you'll know where they are, and you can move accordingly. For the mid lane, you want to put them at these 4 spots right here. Here, 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 and here. Again, these are intersections. It gives you good enough warning time where the jungler will be. The right will be these 3 spots here, here, and here, which are a mirror of the left sides. Intersections again. Now, if you can only afford 1 or 2 wards, you want to place the wards where you feel you'll be in the lane the most. Whatever side you're going to favor is, you want to put the ward in that intersection, because that's going to give you the best warning where the enemy jungler will be. If you like to play deep though, you might want to consider putting the ward in the middle one. And if you're playing close to your tower, then of course you want to put the ward over here at the closest intersection. For the mid, you want to favor a left side or a right side and stay on that side. So you put your wards in that side, and then you can worry a little bit less about the jungler coming from the other side, because it'll take them more time to get to you. So you'll have better warning when you see them on that side, while you have fair warning because of the wards on the side you're favoring. Now, since we're talking about warding, I should talk about the Eye of Providence active. This is a very good active to have. The final level is 900 gold total. The first level, when you get it, it's 250 gold, and you can drop a regular ward every 90 seconds and it lasts for 1 minute. The second level is every 60 seconds for 2 minutes they last. And the final one is a sentry ward. You can drop every 60 seconds and it lasts 3 minutes. Now, considering a regular sentry ward lasts way less than that and they cost 75 gold, it costs 12 sentry wards or even regular wards to equal the price of Eye of Providence. And just think about it, I suggest 3 places for the solo and the duo, and as far as the mid goes, there's 4 suggested places. Since you can have 3 of these wards out at any given time, you can cover those 3 places for the solo and the duo easily. For the mid, you can just cover 2 places and just favor those spots. This is very useful if you want a lot of awareness and a lot of early warning for an enemy god coming in. And it's definitely suggested for the dual lane because you have 4 actives to deal with, while you only have 2 actives for mid and solo. But again, if you want more awareness, totally go for it. But definitely the dual lane should have this, because that is a lot of awareness you can have. Now, for offensive warding, what goes in line with dealing with the enemy jungler is, you want to put your wards at the enemy's buff camps and on their side of the map when it comes to the 2 mid camps. That way you know where the enemy jungler is most likely when they're doing a routine, and you can go over and try to kill them while they're in the jungle. Other things you can do about dealing with the enemy jungler is having an escape ready if you have an escape, or having just some sort of plan ready when the enemy jungler shows up. For anyone who doesn't have escape, you may want to have blink, or maybe something that can cause a slow, or beads to get out of any crowd control. Those you have a jump, of course, you have that to use to get the hell out of there. Lastly is punishing the solo lane, and there's a few ways to do it. The first way is to push them back to their tower. Because the tower, when it kills minions, it makes them not gain any gold from it. This is very useful at starving an enemy solo lane, but it runs the risk of you getting ganked because you're so deep into enemy territory. The second way is way harder to do, and you do it with a duo, is outzoning your opponent. And what you do is, you go between them and the minion fight. That way only you're gaining gold and XP from the minion fight and they're not. If they try to engage you, they will be killed by your duo. But if you do it wrong, the enemy archers will start shooting you. So it's suggested to have Hand of the Gods to deal with the enemy archers if you mess it up. Then there is only last hitting. And the way this works is you only last hit the minions for the last hit bonus. And this keeps the fight around the middle of the lane. It's not too far into their tower, not too far into yours. And what this does is it gives you room to escape if an enemy jungler shows up, and it gives you room to jump over and kill them when you have the levels and means to do so. By punishing the solo lane, you force the jungler to try to help out the solo lane, or maybe one of the other lanes to help gank, because that solo lane is suffering and they need help. It's a key to winning by making the solo lane a weak link or forcing the jungle to come out and kill them. Now for counter jungling, the way it works is as the jungler, you want to keep in mind these spots I mentioned earlier for defensive warding and offensive warding, and consider that there may be wards there at all times. Also, you want to pay attention to enemy movements and see if they're moving in a way that is reactionary to possibly a ward that sees you. If you feel like there might be a ward somewhere, put down a sentry ward and kill their wards. Sometimes you won't find anything, sometimes you will, and it can really save your life. After that, it is looking at the 5 enemy gods on their team and thinking of how you'll deal with each individually in the jungle should you run into them on accident or they're coming hunting for you. Also, you want to have some sort of escape plan in case multiple gods come after you. Final thoughts. Now, the goal of this guide, as we said before, is to help people get better at jungling. If at least one person gets better at jungling, then we have succeeded. That is really how we feel about this, because this is important to me that people get better at jungling. It is only one role, but every role is important, and getting better at any role will improve the gameplay for everyone else. Now, as you're learning to jungle, you will make mistakes. Just don't let it get you down. It's gonna happen. Try to do better next time, learn from your mistakes, and just show what jungling can do. What's important about getting better at jungling is that the better you get at jungling, the more you show how good jungling is as a role. And as you make jungling better, counter jungling strategies will be built towards it. And also you'll be able to incorporate other roles into your way of strategy, and other roles will be able to incorporate their ways with your strategies. And this will enrich the gameplay through a lot of different strategies being built and utilized. And that is beautiful right there, because the more strategies that are developed, the deeper the game becomes. And that is great. Another thing important though is how you conduct yourself. You want to make sure that you are not too disrespectful. Like, you can have tiffs with other teammates, but you got to make sure it gets on lock, because if there are problems, you're going to suffer in the jungle, and maybe the other lanes will suffer as well. And then everyone's going to be mad, and that's not going to help out at all. Be a good player, be a good teammate. If you're that, you're going to make a great team. And a great team will lead to a great community. The better the community, the richer everything will be. An enriched environment will make this a great game. That's what's most important above all. The better we all do, the better this game will do. The more fun it'll be, the more exciting, all of that. It starts with every player. That's what it really is. So, that's the guide. We had fun making it, hope you had fun watching it, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.